Ambassador James Porter had encountered countless unsettling incidents during his 37 years as the Thrixie representative to the Galactic Council. He'd endured the chaos of the Great Space Whale Migration Crisis in 2184, lived through the unforgettable cafeteria incident of 2187 a stain that would forever haunt the ceiling, and somehow managed to survive Representative Zix's infamous 8-hour seminar on proper tentacle care. But nothing at all, had ever shaken him like what he was witnessing now. The humans were being unnervingly nice, not the usual, "Oops, sorry, we accidentally conquered your moon" type of nice, but genuinely, suspiciously nice. It all began 3 weeks ago when the human delegation arrived ahead of schedule to help set up the meeting hall early. These were the same humans who had once filed a formal complaint to adjust all galactic standard times to just 5 more minutes, please. The sight of them cheerfully organizing chairs was enough to make poor Ambassador Kyle Jenkins faint right in the doorway. Then came the parking situation. Everyone knew that the loading dock on level 7 had the prime spots, closest to the coffee dispensers and farthest from the methane-breathing Zarvaki. The humans had always guarded those spaces with the same vigor they once reserved for their nuclear launch codes, but last Tuesday, Ambassador Sarah Hall actually offered her spot to a junior Vrizalor diplomat who was running behind. Security footage showed the Catalan ambassador frozen in place for 6 minutes, utterly stunned, before reluctantly accepting the offer. "It gets worse," Gregory Adams muttered to himself, his skin rippling with unease as he scrolled through his notes. Yesterday, the humans had brought homemade cookies to the Transgalactic Trade Committee meeting. Not the typical vending machine fare they insisted were just as good, but actual fresh-baked cookies, complete with little frosted smiley faces and sprinkles. Several species requested emergency genetic screenings, convinced their senses were malfunctioning. James Porter's primary sensory organ throbbed as he activated the emergency beacon, calling in his most trusted colleagues for an urgent consultation. This was no ordinary situation. It required the sharpest minds in xenopolitical analysis, preferably those who specialized in human psychological manipulation. Senior analyst Tyler Green was the first to arrive, all 17 of their tentacles clutching various datapads. "Ambassador Liam Taylor," Tyler Green said, rushing in with urgency. "I came as soon as I saw your secreting worry mucus. This must be serious. Have you seen the latest reports?" James Porter motioned to his hollow screen, which displayed security footage of humans voluntarily cleaning up after the last council session. "They separated the recycling, Tyler Green. They actually separated the recycling without any threats of economic sanctions." Security Chief Alan Miles skittered in next, mandibles clicking wildly in distress, the insectoid equivalent of hyperventilation. "I just passed 3 humans in the hallway. They stopped mid-conversation when they saw me, smiled, and asked about my L's academic history. They even remembered their names, all 67 of them." "Sweet, merciful nebulas," Tyler Green whispered in horror, their tentacles curling in panic. Liam Taylor's protective membrane began to bubble, a sure sign of diplomatic turmoil. In all my decades of observing humans, I've never seen them display this level of calculated politeness, unless they were preparing to make an absurd request, or... Tyler Green's tentacles twitched nervously. "Or they know something we don't. Something catastrophic." Gregory Adams moved toward his conspiracy board, where he'd been tracking human behavioral patterns for years. "Remember the Proxima Centauri incident? The humans were on their best behavior for weeks before revealing they'd accidentally turned an entire star system into a puppet theater. But this is different." Tyler Green hastily cross-referenced new data. "The politeness levels are off the charts. We're witnessing unprecedented quantities of please, thank you, and after you. One human even apologized for breathing too loudly during meditation hour." "Exactly," James Porter said, his surface rippling with grim resolution. "We need to call an emergency session now. Whatever the humans are hiding, it's bigger than anything we've ever seen before. No species changes its core behavior without a truly catastrophic reason." "Should we alert the council?" Kirk asked cautiously. "Not yet," James Porter replied. "First, we observe, we document, and most critically," his voice dropped to a whisper, "we confirm if they brought more of those cookies. For research purposes, of course." The investigation room buzzed with anxious energy as Tyler Green displayed their findings on the central hollow screen. Their tentacles, usually a peaceful shade of mauve, had turned a deep, mottled purple, an unmistakable sign of extreme concern. As seen here, they gestured with 3 tentacles, while using another 4 to organize data pads. Human politeness levels have surged by 2,346.7% over the past month alone. The blue line represents standard human behavior, with typical spikes around asking to borrow money or, occasionally, invading your planet. But look at this red line. They paused dramatically, letting their colleagues gasp. This red line indicates current behavior patterns. That's impossible! Mark Evans clicked rapidly, mandibles working overtime. According to this data, they're reading all of our memos, even the ones about waste management protocols. James Porter's worry mucus was now forming small puddles beneath his desk. Show them the language statistics. Tyler Green swiftly switched to a new display. In just 3 weeks, human enrollment in alien language courses has skyrocketed by 500%. And they're not just learning the standard diplomatic tongues. Yesterday, I caught Ambassador Sarah Hall practicing ancient Renthari, a language so extinct that even the slugs have forgotten how to speak it. But why? Kirk's antennae fidgeted in confusion, their minds whirling. What could possibly motivate humans to voluntarily learn a language that takes 3 years just to say hello? That's not even the worst part. Gregory Adams oozed closer to the display. Show them the parking lot footage from this morning. The hologram flickered to life, displaying a security feed of the notorious the Level 7 parking area was a scene of utter horror as the assembled aliens watched a human diplomat ship arrive simultaneously with a gelatinous cube representative. Both were aiming for the last premium spot, right by the void crawlers. Look away, little ones, the Thrakthun whispered. But instead of the expected territorial clash, the human ship did something completely unexpected. It backed off immediately, flashing its lights in a friendly manner, and parked much further away, right next to the methane-breathing Drethka. The human even left a note apologizing for taking up too much space with their ship's landing struts. They included a gift card to the council's coffee shop, Tyler Green added, their voice trembling. The markets are in chaos. Gregory Adams gestured toward another screen showing plummeting stock prices. The VCK exchange dropped 30 points after the humans started sending thank you notes for meeting invitations. The entire species of quantum traders has gone into hibernation from sheer confusion. We've compiled a list of other suspicious activities, Tyler Green continued, unfurling a holographic spreadsheet with one of their tentacles. Humans have volunteered to update the Council's ancient database system, offered to host an interspecies potluck dinner, and, this one's particularly disturbing, submitted all their paperwork early. Not just on time, but early. Early? But that's against their religion. Liam Taylor's surface rippled in barely contained anxiety. Exactly, James Porter said, a ripple of dread passing over him. They've even started following the Council's dress code for meetings. Ambassador Emily Carter wore the correct number of ceremonial sashes yesterday, 17 of them in the right order. Let's not forget the elevator incident, Tyler Green added grimly. What elevator incident? Mark Evans clicked in confusion. 2 human diplomats reached the elevator at the same time as a hive mind collective. Instead of their usual trick of pretending to be on a call until the elevator left, Tyler Green's tentacles trembled as they spoke. They actually let the collective enter first. The collective takes 7 minutes to fully enter the elevator. No human has ever voluntarily waited that long for anything, Gregory Adams exclaimed. That's unheard of. It gets worse, Tyler Green continued. When they finally got in, they engaged in polite conversation with the collective about their recent binary fission. They even remembered the names of all 8 million offspring. The room fell into stunned silence, broken only by the gentle drip of James Porter's worry mucus hitting the floor. In my 20 years of security work, Kirk finally spoke, I've only seen behavior this concerning once before. It was when my Kralliks were being suspiciously well-behaved, just before I discovered they'd accidentally teleported their school into another dimension. Exactly, Liam Taylor said, his surface rippling with a sense of vindication. Whatever the humans are hiding, it must be catastrophic. No species changes this drastically without a major event triggering it. Before anyone could respond, a soft knock at the door interrupted the moment. Junior analyst Luke Davis, the only human on their investigation team, poked his head inside. "Hey, everyone. Just wanted to drop off these reports. I took the liberty of color-coding them and adding little tabs for easier reference. Oh, and I brought more cookies." The three aliens watched in horrified silence as Luke Davis carefully arranged the cookies on a plate, using a tiny brush to sweep away any crumbs before giving them a cheerful wave and leaving. "Did he just alphabetize our snack drawer?" Tyler Green asked weakly, voice tinged with disbelief. James Porter's worry mucus was now ankle-deep on the floor. "We need to call an emergency council session now." The council chamber hadn't seen this level of panic since the great coffee shortage of 2182. Representatives from 17 different species were packed into the emergency session, their various appendages, tentacles, and sensory organs all showing classic signs of extreme distress. Ambassador James Porter's conspiracy board had grown so large it now covered an entire wall. Red string connected hundreds of images, humans holding doors open, humans saying "excuse me" when they hadn't even bumped into anyone, humans actually using coasters during meetings. At the center was a photo of the human delegation presenting a fruit basket to the arachnoid representatives, complete with special holders for all 8 of their hands. "As you can see," James Porter gestured to the board with a pseudopod, "the situation has reached critical levels. This morning, the humans submitted a proposal to host next month's council meeting, at their expense." The chamber erupted in chaos. The Authoron delegation started stress fracturing, 3 Kuranai beings condensed from pure shock. At their expense? The Jalcor vibrated in disbelief. But humans love making others pay for things. They invented the concept of splitting the bill. Senior analyst Tyler Green's tentacles typed away furiously on multiple keyboards, bringing up even more disturbing evidence. They've also volunteered to handle all the catering, including dietary requirements for silicon-based life forms. They've even promised to label everything in all 247 council languages. "But that's impossible," shouted a Veluth, who had briefly emerged from hibernation. "Last year, they tried to convince us that labeling things in just basic standard was, and I quote, a violation of their fundamental right to wing it." Security Chief Mark Evans skittered nervously to the podium. "Our surveillance teams report even more alarming behavior. Humans in the diplomatic corps have started arriving at meetings 5 minutes early." His mandibles quivered. Several delegates fainted, a photonic being flickered out of existence for a moment from sheer stress. "The numbers don't lie," Tyler Green continued, projecting a complex series of charts. "Human complaints about council procedures have dropped to 0. They've stopped trying to smuggle in outside coffee. They're even using the official council letterhead template instead of what they usually call close enough. Yesterday," James Porter added grimly, "I observed Ambassador Emily Carter actually reading the council's 2,403-page manual on proper meeting procedures, not just skimming it. They were taking notes." The chamber fell silent, save for the sound of worry mucus dripping from dozens of concerned species. But the most disturbing development, Mark Evans clicked anxiously, happened this morning. The humans have volunteered to— "Out with it," demanded Liam Taylor. The Jalcor had just volunteered to reorganize the entire council's archives, all of them, including the sub-basement records that hadn't been touched in centuries. Panic surged to new heights. The Kuranai beings began to evaporate from stress, and the Authoron delegation's fractures were now visible from orbit. "That's not even the worst part," Tyler Green added, their 17 tentacles trembling as if they were about to snap. "They've offered to do it using the council's official classification system, instead of their usual throw it all into a pile and hope for the best method." A Veluth in the back of the room collapsed into a single state, overwhelmed by shock. Gregory Adams oozed to the center of the chamber, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. "Fellow representatives," he began gravely, "in all my years of studying human behavior, I've never seen anything remotely like this. They're being organized, considerate, systematic. This completely goes against everything we know about their species." "Could they be unwell?" suggested a concerned bacterial consciousness, a nervous vibration in their voice. "We considered that," Cook replied, but their medical scans show standard levels of chaos and highly questionable decision-making. No, something else is going on here. Something much more alarming. At that very moment, junior analyst Luke Davis entered the chamber, holding several meticulously organized folders. "Hey everyone, hope I'm not interrupting," he said brightly. "Just dropping off these proposal forms for next month's meeting. They're filled out in triplicate, notarized, and I even included supplementary documentation for subsection 7b, paragraph 13, regarding proper waste management during interstellar gatherings." The room fell silent as the other aliens watched in utter horror as Luke Davis carefully set the folders down on the desk, using a small level to ensure they were perfectly aligned with the edge. "Oh, and by the way," he added cheerfully, "we also updated the Council's ancient computer system, added some nice new features. You can actually search for files now. Anyway, see you all tomorrow at the voluntary pre-mating meditation session." As the door clicked shut behind him, the chamber erupted into chaos. 3 more Veluths went into hibernation. The Kuranai beings had to be contained in specialized containers, and the Jalkor began spontaneous binary fission from sheer stress. "Did he just solve our millennia-old filing system problem?" Tyler Green whispered in disbelief. "The one we've been ignoring since the founding of the Council?" James Porter's worry mucus was now overflowing, flooding the room. "Emergency containment protocols are no longer enough. We need answers. Now. Tomorrow's meditation session might be our last chance to figure out what the humans are hiding before it's too late." As cleaning drones began mopping up the various stress secretions from the chamber floor, no one noticed Luke Davis in the hallway, speaking softly into his communicator. "They're starting to catch on," he murmured. "We might need to accelerate the timeline." The meditation session was proceeding as expected until junior analyst Luke Davis had his breakdown. Later, many would say it was inevitable. No human could keep up that level of organization without eventually collapsing. It happened right after Luke Davis had finished arranging meditation cushions by species-specific comfort preferences, complete with little name tags in all 247 council languages. Ambassador James Porter, watching the humans maintain a perfect facade, saw their composure starting to slip. "Anyone care for some calming tea?" Luke Davis asked, his voice unusually high-pitched. "I've prepared 17 different varieties, each specifically formulated for different biochemistries. The silicon-based blends are kept at exactly 372.00 to prevent potential crystallization." Luke Davis's hands shook as he rearranged and adjusted the teacups for the 8th time. "Luke," James Porter oozed closer, worry mucus pooling around him. "The cups are already perfectly aligned. But what if they're not?" Luke Davis's eye twitched. "What if they're off by 0.3 millimeters? What if someone notices? What if it all falls apart?" Suddenly, he slapped his hands over his mouth as though trying to stop himself from saying more. "What if? Working for what exactly?" Tyler Green's tentacles pointed accusingly at him. "Nothing. Everything's fine," Luke Davis said, his voice cracking under the pressure. "Just us humans being naturally organized and thoughtful and definitely not hiding anything catastrophic." Security Chief Mark Evans clicked his mandibles in distress. "Luke, your species invented the phrase close enough. You once tried to file a military defense budget under miscellaneous snacks. I can't take it anymore." Luke Davis collapsed onto a meditation cushion, sending it sliding slightly out of alignment. He didn't even bother fixing it. "Do you have any idea how hard it's been?" Luke wailed. "The color coding, the alphabetizing, remembering all the names." "The truth," James Porter demanded, doing his best to sound stern despite his essentially blob-like form. "Why are humans suddenly acting like responsible members of galactic society?" "Because we found something," Luke sobbed, his voice breaking. "Something huge, something ancient, something heading straight for our galaxy." The room went completely still, except for the low hum of environmental controls and the soft drip, drip, drip of collective worry mucus. "What exactly did you find?" Tyler Green asked, their tentacles curling with anxiety. "We call them the Void Wanderers," Luke Davis whispered, his voice barely audible. "Ancient entities from beyond the galaxies. Our deep space sensors picked them up 3 months ago. They're unlike anything we've ever seen. They make black holes look like pocket lint. They consume entire star clusters for breakfast. Literally, they only feed in the morning. We've been tracking their feeding schedule. And you didn't think to mention this to the council? Mark Evans's mandibles clicked frantically. We tried last year. Luke threw his hands up in frustration. Remember that emergency session we called about a potential existential threat to all known life? The one where half the council was playing mobile games and the other half was arguing about parking validation. James Porter's surface rippled with recognition. Exactly! Luke Davis collapsed again, overwhelmed. Nobody ever takes emergency sessions seriously, so we had to do something different, something dramatic, something unprecedented. Being nice? Tyler Green whispered, horror and disbelief in their voice. We figured if we started acting super responsible and organized, everyone would realize something was terribly wrong. Luke was pacing now, his professional demeanor shattered. Do you have any idea how hard it is to remember 67 LVY names? I had to get a neural implant just to store all that data, Luke grumbled. But surely there were other ways to grab your attention. Blore suggested, We've tried everything. We sent formal reports and no one read them. We did interpretive dance, but everyone just thought it was the latest human fitness craze. We even tried skywriting danger approaching in 27 languages, but all anyone did was complain about the smoke pollution. So, you decided to... Cook's antenna twitched in hesitation. Follow proper protocols, Luke replied, a hint of exhaustion in his voice. It was a last resort. Luke's expression shifted, becoming haunted. Do you know what it's like for a human to actually read an entire manual? The headaches, the eye strain, the temptation to just wing it. Blore's worry mucus began to form small waves as his mind processed the implications. And these void wanderers, how close are they? Luke flicked through his meticulously organized digital calendar. By our calculations, about 3 hours away. The room exploded into chaos. Tyler Green's tentacles twisted into an indecipherable knot, while Cook's exoskeleton began molting under stress. But don't worry, Luke added, trying to calm them down. We've already mobilized the entire human defense fleet. We've been preparing for weeks. We just needed the entire galaxy to cooperate before we could launch the counteroffensive. You've been hiding your ships behind Jupiter this entire time? Do you know how many parking tickets we've had to pay? Luke's voice cracked slightly. James Porter's surface rippled in disbelief. You mean to tell me that humanity has already organized a defense against an ancient cosmic horror? And you did all the paperwork properly? The fate of the galaxy was on the line! Luke's tone became slightly manic. We even filed environmental impact studies for the quantum weapons, in triplicate. At that moment, every communication device in the room began buzzing in unison. A massive shadow appeared at the edge of the galaxy on the main screen. Oh, thank the void. Luke sighed with relief. Now we can finally stop being organized. The council's main view screen displayed the Void Wanderers, colossal shadow-like beings that seemed to warp both light and reality as they devoured their way through entire star systems, like a cosmic buffet line. Well, Gregory Adams observed, his worry mucus now knee-deep, that explains all the cookies. Speaking of which, Luke said casually, now looking far more relaxed, as he kicked his feet up on a precisely arranged desk, sending several papers scattering. Anyone want the last snickerdoodle? The galaxy's about to get really busy. The emergency broadcast system crackled to life. Ambassador Emily Carter's voice came through, suspiciously cheerful. Attention all council members. Remember that defense fleet we said we absolutely weren't hiding behind Jupiter? Turns out we were totally hiding a defense fleet behind Jupiter. Surprise! If everyone could please proceed to their designated evacuation points, yes, the ones we insisted on running safety drills for, that would be fantastic. And yes, we filed all the necessary paperwork for this. The screen split to show thousands of human ships emerging from behind Jupiter. Every vessel was adorned with proper registration numbers, safety warnings in all council languages, and the most shocking detail of all, up-to-date inspection stickers. You actually got safety certifications? Tyler Green's tentacles drooped in disbelief. Do you have any idea how many forms we had to fill out? Luke groaned. We had to hire 300 new bureaucrats just to handle all the paperwork. Some of them developed carpal tunnel syndrome. We even had to file workers' compensation claims. The chamber watched in stunned silence as the human fleet moved into perfect formation, so flawless that two more Veluths spontaneously entered hibernation from shock. "Hold on," Mark Evans clicked suddenly. "Is that why you insisted on updating the Council's computer system? To process all the combat permits more efficiently?" Luke threw his hands up in exasperation. "Do you know how long it takes to file an emergency response action plan on a computer system that still runs on punch cards? We had to teach the entire fleet Boolean logic just to submit the ammunition requisition forms." The human fleet executed a series of precision maneuvers, every ship maintaining the proper safety distance. Their warning lights blinked in perfect sync, and they had even submitted their flight plans on time. "Battle stations, everyone," Emily Carter's voice crackled again. "And yes, we've updated everyone's emergency contact information, even the Jal Corps' 8 million offspring. You're welcome." The Void Wanderers, apparently perplexed by the orderly human military response, paused their consumption of stars. "Now!" Luke shouted into his communicator. "Hit them with the properly documented and thoroughly tested quantum weapons." The human fleet launched a perfectly coordinated attack, unleashing energy beams that illuminated the galaxy. Each shot was accompanied by appropriate warning labels and safety notifications. "Are those environmental impact reports floating in space?" Gregory Adams asked, squinting at the screen. "Had to file them somewhere," Luke grinned. "Fun fact, you can weaponize bureaucracy if you try hard enough. Those reports are printed on quantum-encoded paper. Really ruins an eternal being's appetite." The Void Wanderers recoiled as they were bombarded not only by quantum weapons, but also by thousands of properly filed forms, certificates, and permits. One particularly large entity appeared to choke on a stack of insurance liability waivers. "Status report," Tyler Green demanded, their tentacles clicking furiously. "The good news is," Luke reported, "the defense plan is working exactly as documented in subsection 7, paragraph 13 of our emergency response protocol. The bad news is we're going to have to file so many after-action reports, so many reports." The chamber watched in awe as humanity's most powerful weapons, perfect organization and malicious compliance with safety regulations, forced the cosmic horrors back into the void between galaxies. "I can't believe it," Mark Evans chittered, incredulous. "You actually saved the galaxy with proper documentation." "Just wait until you see the expense reports," Luke muttered. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I really need to go do something chaotic and poorly planned. All this organization is giving me hives." As Luke walked off screen, the council members sat in stunned silence, watching as humanity's weapon of choice, organization, and paperwork, had managed to defeat an ancient cosmic horror. The last of the Void Wanderers retreated, leaving behind a trail of neatly notarized surrender documents. A month later, the council gathered for what they thought would be a typical meeting. They were wrong. It was, in fact, properly organized, which made it anything but routine. Ambassador Gregory Adams, finally managing to get his worry mucus under control, stood to address the chamber. In light of the recent events, the Council has adopted a new galaxy-wide policy. From this point forward, if humans exhibit any signs of excessive politeness, organization, or even just basic competence, we will assume an extinction-level event is imminent. We're calling it the UID, the Overwhelmingly Organized Invasion Directive. Senior analyst Tyler Green added, their tentacles smoothly arranging papers which, for once, were in the exact order they should be. "I object to this policy," Luke Davis called out from his usual seat, comfortably slouched. His tie was crooked, his hair in disarray, and he had already spilled coffee on 3 separate non-essential reports. Everyone visibly relaxed at this unmistakably human behavior. Security Chief Mark Evans's mandibles twitched in satisfaction. The humans have also submitted their after-action report on the Void Wanderer incident. It was only 3 weeks late and contained just 17 spelling errors. We're still concerned this level of competence is too dangerous. "Don't worry," Luke yawned, putting his feet up on a console. "We threw in some coffee stains and deliberately misaligned the margins to help everyone feel at ease." The chamber nodded in approval. This was much more reassuring. However, Gregory Adams continued, we must recognize humanity's strategic use of bureaucracy as a weapon, and frankly, it was impressive. So, we are implementing mandatory galactic defense courses. The first class will be titled Human Diplomatic Techniques, When to Panic, if they start filling things out properly. We've also added a new section to the Council's threat assessment protocols, Tyler Green declared. Any instance of humans voluntarily attending non-mandatory meetings will now automatically trigger a Level 7 emergency. The Jalcor vibrated in approval. We've set up an early warning system, Tyler Green continued. If more than 3 humans are seen using coasters at the same time, planetary defense systems will automatically activate. And the parking situation? Someone called from the back. Oh, that's back to normal, Luke grinned. We've already received 16 complaints about Ambassador Emily Carter's ship taking up 3 parking spaces. She's claiming diplomatic immunity and something about quantum certainty, meaning her ship exists in multiple spaces simultaneously. A collective sigh of relief passed through the chamber. The Veluths began to emerge from hibernation, and the Kurenai beings settled into their usual mild states of anxiety, as opposed to the previous extreme panic. One last question. Mark Evans clicked thoughtfully. What happened to all those organized humans? The ones who learned our languages, remembered our names? Luke shuddered. Most of them are in therapy. Do you have any idea what conjugating ancient Renthari verbs does to a human brain? We've had to set up support groups. And maintaining that level of organization, we all started having nightmares about spreadsheets. And the defense fleet? Gregory Adams asked. Half the ships have already lost their registration stickers, Luke reported with a smirk. 3 ships have parking tickets around Saturn, and no one can find the maintenance logs. Nature is healing, Luke added with a satisfied grin. As the council session wrapped up, 20 minutes late, with 3 minor arguments about procedure and 1 coffee spill, James Porter reviewed his notes. The humans had returned to their usual chaotic behavior. The galaxy was safe once again, and if they ever started being suspiciously polite again, well, at least they now had a protocol for that. Oh, by the way, Luke called out as he made his exit, deliberately knocking over a stack of papers. We might have accidentally misplaced that ancient co-MC horror containment paperwork. But don't worry. What's the worst that could happen? James Porter's worry mucus began to drip again. Just a little. But it was a familiar, normal feeling.